Hey, good morning, everyone. Josh is Severe Weather. Happy Thursday to you. We're going to talk mostly tropics here, but also some other weather in the United States that's going to be impactful. And one thing I'm going to caution you guys on this is we've got a very challenging forecast ahead in the tropics here with a couple of storm systems in the central Atlantic. We've been talking about the Northeast Caribbean having to keep a close eye on things. I'm starting to see some adjustments that are actually giving you some better results here in the Northeastern Caribbean. So let's take a look at that here. And two systems on the map, and they're kind of next to each other, and that is never an easy forecast here in the tropics. We see kind of two storms that are going to be dancing with each other. Philippe is, of course, the one that has the name right now. Another system behind it is an Invest 91L, which still has a pretty good chance of becoming a named system, but we are starting to see some changes here in the future of both of these systems due to the fact that they're interacting with each other. You can see we have Tropical Storm Philippe on the map, and that's about 500 miles east of Puerto Rico right now. Winds are 50 miles per hour. It is slowing down and moving west-northwest at 5 miles per hour. Behind it, we've got another disturbance which continues to struggle to develop, but it is showing some signs of organization, just not there yet. It's like something that has potential and doesn't quite do it. But we do think there's still a decent chance this could be our next depression or storm before the end of the week. And the next name on the list is Rena. Now, these two storms are the only ones on the map. If you take a look at other basins in the Eastern Pacific, we may have a weak system, maybe a depression or something towards the open waters of the Central Pacific here, but not going to be a threat to Hawaii. In the Western Pacific, we do have a couple of systems that could develop, but a lot of uncertainty there. I'm not going to talk about that today, though. Just a little bit too much on the map. So the tropics are still in play here. You know, it is late September. But those of you in South Florida know a year ago with Hurricane Ian moving through that late September is still very much alive in the peak of our hurricane season. Now, fortunately, today we don't have threats to the Gulf or the Southeast or the Western Caribbean. Everything is out over the open parts of the Central Pacific. And really, this is our main group of systems here, Tropical Storm Philippe and Invest 91L right next to each other in a weak steering environment. You can see high pressure building into the north and west. That's this deeper black color here. And an upper level low here in the Eastern Caribbean, providing some wind shear and some drier air in the face of Philippe. But we are seeing adjustments in today's forecast. The wind shear is now beginning to lessen here. You see Philippe is now over this area of green, which is lower wind shear below 15 knots, generally speaking. The higher wind shear remaining now to the north and east of Philippe. So it's actually surviving the wind shear. And a couple of days ago, the model said this is not going to survive, or it's going to struggle immensely, or even become an open wave, and then maybe try to track underneath this high pressure area here towards the Bahamas. Today, those models are disagreeing completely with that trend, and they are flummoxing forecasters like me. And now we're seeing a scenario here where Philippe very much may survive this wind shear and actually make a comeback next week and also affect the future of our next invest here. The two systems are going to be kind of dancing with each other. We do have a boundary that continues trapped over northern Florida and over the southeastern coast. We do have another system that is moving through the Great Lakes, producing some showers and storms over Kentucky, Tennessee, and Ohio. This did produce some severe weather late last night, but not quite to the magnitude that it could have. So we are just going to see scattered showers and storms moving into the mid-Ohio Valley, into western PA, into western Virginia and East Tennessee, but nothing severe expected today. And in between, very dry weather in place over Louisiana, Mississippi, Alabama, Georgia, and the Western Carolinas. We do have a lot of cloud cover. You can kind of see some clouds in here on the infrared. It's going to stay kind of damp and kind of dreary here in the Western Carolinas, Northeast Georgia, right up into Virginia. Kind of a cold air damming setup that you might expect this time of the year when cooler air comes in underneath a moisture environment aloft. And so it should not be much better today than it was yesterday in the foothills region here and in the Appalachians, which me personally in Raleigh, I'm actually loving this weather. My windows are open. It's 60 degrees and cloudy. It's not going to get above 70. To me personally, this is ideal sleeping weather. Not going to rain, just going to be kind of mainly cloudy, kind of on the cool side. Kind of reminds you of the kind of weather we want to see here in October for fall festivals, because those cloudy skies can produce a very beautiful backdrop for fall foliage once we get into that time frame. When the sun is shining on the golden leaves, it's beautiful, but when you have the cloud cover, sometimes those colors really do pop. So if you are leaf peeping here in the next couple of days in the Appalachians, you're going to be starting to see some better looks here in the coming days. Now, this system here in the Great Lakes region is going to eventually track east into the northeast. Moisture's coming up the coast, and we are going to see some significant rainfall for many of us here in the northeast here in the coming days. And I'm going to talk about that in just a little bit after we finish up here with the tropics. Good news, we do have this feature still spinning over the Western Caribbean, but look, it's got a lot less thunderstorm activity than it did a day ago. We do see some storms popping up here near the Isle of Youth and the south coast of Cuba, but nothing organized. Really, the heavy moisture is actually moving up through the Keys into southern Florida and even up towards the northwestern Bahamas and Andros Island. A lot of this actually over water. So this is a lot better look than what we saw yesterday, and again, more of a sign that I don't think anything's going to affect the Western Caribbean anytime soon. Here are our two features here, Philippe and 91L. You can almost not even see a difference between the two. It's almost like they've merged into one massive but disorganized conglomerate of rain and thunderstorms. This is Philippe right here, and this is 91L right behind, excuse me, right behind it. And there's just not enough space between the two for these two to not be kind of almost latched on to each other. This is kind of the amoeba that latches on to this one, kind of the leech. I don't know if you want to call it that, but it's kind of trying to leech off of this system here. And there is a really neat term in the weather phenomenon called, or in the weather world, a phenomenon called the Fujiwara effect, where one storm pivots around another. They kind of dance with each other. This one looks like it's actually going to try to do something like that, where Philippe is going to get into a weak steering environment, going to kind of move here and come up in this direction. And 91L is actually going to kind of pivot around it. So the two are actually going to kind of dance with each other in this direction. However, this one's going to be kind of caught up in the circulation of Philippe and not really have a chance to organize. So we may very well not even have Rena. Forgive me, guys. I'm getting over something, so I'm trying to talk, and my it sucks, but I'm getting better. All right, I'm getting better every day. Here's our next wave coming off of Africa. Does not look like it's going to organize. Too much wind shear coming from these two systems here. So things are actually going to be quieting down in the main development region for the time being. Now, Philippe is kind of defying the odds of the Hurricane Center's forecast, and models are now adjusting to these trends. You can see it is not an organized system at this point. However, it is continuing to bring us some bursts of convection here. The center is actually over here somewhere. It's actually very poorly organized, but you see these bursts of convection over here. Let me change my, here we go. Let's make this a little easier to follow. See these bursts of convection, they indicate that Philippe, while not a healthy looking and organized system, it is still a system that is defying the odds and is probably going to hang tight here over the next couple of days. The steering flow on this, very difficult to figure out. This is 91L. It actually looks kind of like crap, to be honest with you guys here, or crud. Apologize. It is, I don't even know if it's going to develop into something anymore. Philippe's slowing down quite a bit. We're seeing Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands now taken out of the cone of uncertainty. That's great news there. I know a lot of you are watching in Puerto Rico. This is what you want to see. But I don't believe and don't buy into the fact that this system is going to weaken and become a remnant low by the time we get to Monday or Tuesday. In fact, I could see it ending up stuck over here, waiting a day or two, and then by the time we get to Wednesday and Thursday, it actually becomes a strengthening tropical storm. It may not look pretty, but it may start to take on the format of a healthier looking system that is going to remain probably a fish storm. So you're saying, okay, Josh, you're spending 10 minutes talking about a fish storm. Great. Well, this is what I get paid to do, folks. It's the forecast, not the Hurricane Center. I obviously urge you to go off of their forecast if you end up being in the cone. But I don't agree with their forecast at this time, and they even express uncertainty in the future of our storms. So if you take a look at the European ensembles, you can see Storm 1 and Storm 2, but then you could kind of see just a whole lot of uncertainty here. This is extremely uncertain, but we do see some healthier solutions here over the north central Atlantic, staying to the east of Bermuda. We also see some solutions that are closer to Bermuda here by next Friday. So if you're in Bermuda, if you're in the northeastern Caribbean, if you're on the East Coast, I don't think you want to give up on this just yet. There's still way too much uncertainty. The good news is that the Gulf is as quiet as it's going to get this time of the year. The East Coast right now, we were looking at low pressure trying to form. Now that doesn't look like it's going to happen. So good news there. And our next system in the Pacific looks like it would be weak and still about 10 days away from any kind of development. So let's look at the European control here. You can see Philippe is going to kind of travel south and west and weaken over the weekend. This could become Rena briefly here this weekend, but Philippe looks like it's going to try to make a comeback. The two may actually kind of, I don't know, coalesce into one system, and there's just not a lot of certainty. Bermuda's right here, so you still need to watch things in Bermuda. The control says, okay, this particular solution says eventually we do have an escape route to the northeast, but not till the 12th or 13th of October. The operational European only goes 10 days out. It does kill off Philippe and develop Rena, but then it brings Philippe back from the dead here next Tuesday and Wednesday into a tropical storm, but something that eventually could be east of Bermuda and trying to redevelop next weekend. The GFS model, on the other hand, says, screw you, European, I'm going to do my own thing here, and I'm going to hold on to Philippe. And in fact, I'm going to strengthen Philippe into a hurricane here later in the weekend. I personally think this may end up being too aggressive, but I do see that there is an opportunity for that to happen. So Rena here does become a tropical storm and distance itself here from Philippe, and eventually Philippe can become a hurricane. Now, I don't think it's going to be a category 3 like the GFS shows. Certainly a 1 or 2 is on the map, though, but it ends up being the storm that takes over and eventually kills Philippe. And it looks like it's coming a little bit closer to Bermuda than we would like to admit at this point. So keep an eye on it in Bermuda, but all three of these solutions do escape things to the east of the, not escape, but they keep the Northeastern Caribbean kind of out of the frame of potential impact areas. The Canadian says Philippe does get very close to the Leeward Islands here. Rena holds its own. This is Monday. And eventually we still see Philippe on the map, and then eventually Philippe dies, and it's just very two disorganized systems. I could certainly see how that happens as well. The guidance here with Philippe says we have fewer solutions that try to bring it into Puerto Rico, but we do have the UK Met showing that happening. Everything else keeps it near 60 west and then eventually turns it northward. The ensembles with the GFS show, generally speaking, weak steering through the weekend and then a turn northward and then back to the northeast. But we still have some solutions that keep it closer to Puerto Rico and the Virgin Islands. And here you can see our ensembles trended back towards the Virgin Islands and Leeward Islands yesterday. That's what these red solutions are here. And now that trend is right back to the right. So the models do the windshield wiper where it's going left, it's going right. And who knows, it may end up going back to the left. But either way, we don't see an immediate threat coming from this. The intensity forecasts show all kinds of differences. Tropical storm, this is the official forecast. It's below everything here in about 100 hours from now. Everything else says tropical storm or even category 1 or 2 hurricane. So we really just don't know at this point based on this uncertainty level. Tropical models are actually doing a better job of agreeing with each other. They completely disagree, though, with the operational models, the global models, I should say. And the HWRF says that Philippe is going to come back to the west. It's going to pick up Rena here, and it's going to strengthen starting this weekend into a powerful storm system. So despite the wind shear of the next 2 days, it says the wind shear relaxes and the circulation center grows, and we have a significant hurricane by Tuesday of next week. That's not the only model that shows that. If you look at the HMON, it says, I don't even know what it's doing here, but it's showing it is going to strengthen here into a category 1 hurricane and eventually a category 2 by the time we get into next Tuesday or Wednesday timeframe. And the HAFS A and B solutions also show kind of a Fujiwara where Rena gets slingshotted away to the north and Philippe turns away to the northeast and then turns back to the northwest. This is kind of Rena if it's even left over. Here's Bermuda over here, so we still have a pretty healthy looking system. It looks like a strengthening hurricane, and this could be our 4th major hurricane of the season if the HAFS is right. And this model does love to be a little bit too aggressive, but it could be right here. It certainly could. So HAFSB says not as strong, but still we do have a hurricane category 1 becoming a category 2 by next Tuesday. So yeah, interesting stuff here. The HWRF says Philippe is going to survive the wind shear over the weekend. Rena is going to get sucked up into Philippe here by Sunday, and we are going to have a strengthening hurricane with a healthy looking eye and a healthy looking structure by the time we get to Monday night and Tuesday. The National Hurricane Center is saying this is a remnant low by Monday, a weak depression, and the majority of the tropical models say this is a major hurricane. So who's going to be right? I don't know, but the Hurricane Center is kind of on its island of its own here. It wants to stay true to its forecast, but I think they're going to end up being wrong here. And late September, early October, very warm waters, lowering wind shear. I think we're going to have a hurricane out of Philippe here by the time we talk about Monday and Tuesday. Will it be as strong as what the tropical models show? Probably not, but I certainly think we have something to keep an eye on. And if you're in Bermuda, and you definitely need to be watching this for the high surf, but potentially a shift in any kind of track. So keep an eye on things there. In the Pacific, we are going to start getting busier here with a potential tropical storm building south of Japan early next week. And then we have potentially two systems heading towards the Mariana Islands, including Guam, by next weekend. And the GFS is doing a Fujiwara here as well, where it's got two systems dancing with each other here. So get used to that term, Fujiwara. It certainly is an interesting one, named after Professor Fujiwara, who discovered this way back in the 70s, I believe. As I took my meteorology classes at Penn State, we learned about it, we talked about it. We didn't really even see it happen, but we could see it happen both in the Atlantic here this week and then next week in the Pacific. Either way, the only thing I can guarantee to you guys here is that we have a guaranteed uncertain forecast. So the only certainty is uncertainty in our case here. So that's the tropics. We do have something to keep an eye on in the Northeast, kind of a frontal boundary here that's going to bring an increase in moisture offshore here by this evening, and then showers moving onto Long Island later on this evening and overnight tonight into Connecticut. And then tomorrow, we see another push of moisture getting stuck in the Hudson Valley. It doesn't look like a lot on the map here, but what happens is we've got this kind of upglide into the Appalachians and into the foothills here of New York and Connecticut and Massachusetts and New Jersey. And all this moisture that gets slugged northward is going to bring us quite a bit of precipitation late tonight and especially tomorrow. And if you do have travel plans to the Big Apple or to anywhere else in this surrounding tri-state area and Western Mass, you definitely need to be tracking this very closely. A very wet scenario coming for our day on Friday, and the HRRR model says this is going to be a big time rain event for some folks here. 1 to 3 inches of rain. You get into like the Taconics and into the Berkshires, we may see 4 or 5 inches. Parts of Long Island could see 5 inches. New Jersey, 5, 6, 7 inches of rain. And this is all going to be mainly in a 24-hour period from late tonight to late tomorrow night. So if you are in New York City on Friday, you could be dealing with localized flooding. I would not be shocked to see a flash flood watch be issued for parts of this area. If you're in Boston or Cape Cod, I think the worst stays west of you, but Western Mass, Northwest Connecticut, Hudson Valley, North Jersey, Long Island, maybe even getting towards the Poconos here by Saturday morning, all under the gun here for potentially a very significant rain event coming from a mesoscale system, meaning a medium scale system, not a big rainmaker, not a big coastal low or anything like that. Florida's still dealing with heavy rain. We've seen it in South Florida this morning. We're going to see more showers and storms over parts of Central and South Florida, Lake Okeechobee area, inland from Tampa. So mainly areas that don't need the rain are going to see that, but more showers and storms coming in off the Gulf here tomorrow. That could impact the Tampa Bay area, Orlando, all the way over to Palm Coast, places like the Cape Canaveral area, Space Coast here tomorrow afternoon, as we have this front kind of stuck in this area here. Total rainfall amounts could be pretty high here over parts of South Florida. Miami-Dade County, locally 5 inches possible. The Keys, 5, 6 inches of rain possible. Tampa Bay could see an inch or two. The Space Coast and the Treasure Coast could see local amounts of 3 to 6 inches. Even the First Coast could see amounts of 5 or 6 inches. We've got a boundary that's kind of set up here, a lot of moisture in place. If I show you radar Omega this morning, you see the Everglades getting very wet. This moisture gets drawn northward. We could see a lot of rain over parts of Miami-Dade and Broward counties here later in the day today, even Palm Beach County, and heading up towards Indian River County and farther northward as well towards Port St. Lucie. But there's some relief coming. You can see kind of this boundary here. This is precipitable water. It's sitting here over the northern Gulf through tomorrow. Watch this. As we get to the weekend, that boundary does shift southward here in Florida, and the Gulf area looks great. Not the Gulf area, but northern Florida, the Panhandle look great. And then eventually we see some drier air pushing down into South Florida. So we do need this rain, but we do see an end to this wet regime here by the middle of next week. And if you look at dew points here, it's still very humid in South Florida, but as we move on, we see some lowering of dew points into the 50s and 60s here in the Panhandle and North Florida over the weekend. So very nice weather coming all the way down. Even Orlando, a dew point of 65, really ain't that bad. Tampa 67. It's going to start feeling better here. I know Mike Boylan's pretty happy about that, I'm sure, but down to 58 and 59 are our dew points here Tuesday afternoon. So let's not call it fall, but we can call it some relief from the humidity by the middle of next week. Even Miami and Broward County, Palm Beach County could see dew points in the upper 60s. It's not going to be a huge drop, but it is a significantly nicer feel to the atmosphere here, a little bit less air you can wear here by Tuesday and Wednesday of next week. So, yeah, I'm struggling here with my health, but I'm getting better. But I appreciate y'all's patience, and thank you for watching today. If you have not subscribed yet to this channel, please consider doing that. I'll try not to stumble over my words tomorrow, but I thank you all for your time. I thank God and give him all the glory for allowing me to do this every day. He's giving me the strength to get through this video, even though I am struggling. I've been on cough meds. I've been trying to get a lot of sleep and trying to get back to some exercise, and I just have barely enough to get through 30 minutes here. So thank you so much for your time. Again, I give God all the glory. I know a lot of you may do that, but a lot of you may not. But I believe personally that we're not here just by random chance. God has created us. He's given us the ability to believe that there is a higher being, that there is certainly a higher calling. And to me personally, I feel there is a higher calling. This is my gift to you all, and that I've been called to share the holy word of God. Hebrews 11:1 says, "Now faith is the substance of things hoped for, the evidence of things not seen." We all hope that one day when our lives on earth are finished, that we are going to be in a spot where we're not going to be completely wiped off the earth and unforgiven and, not forgiven for our sins, and that we can, I mean, it's a scary thought. Death is a scary thought, but that there is something better for us in our future. It's maybe it's, if you're a Christian, it's believing that Jesus Christ is coming again to bring us back to him, back to the heavenly body that he oversees, his dominion, his kingdom. Some of us may not believe that. I didn't for probably 30 years of my life. I just believed that maybe I'd be reincarnated into something else, maybe a bird or a plant somewhere. And I'm not making fun of that. That's just what I believed. But I've grown in my faith that I don't know what's going to happen, but I want to choose to believe that something good is coming. The reason why is that I've seen way too much evidence that there is a higher being, that there is a reason that I'm here where I am every day, that I've been called to share with you all, whether to share with you on YouTube, that I'm going to be blessed and that I can bless you. And that is faith. Faith is the substance of things that we all hope for. We all want to hope for the best. We don't want to hope for bad things to happen. So I just wanted to share my faith with you because I think it's very important. It's the cornerstone. It's the foundation of what I truly do every day, and I pray that it is for you as well. So if you are somebody who's struggling in your faith, that is perfectly fine. I think we all struggle, but I do want to personally pray over you and for you. If you want to list those prayer requests, I'm happy to pray for you. If you could keep praying for me too, I appreciate that. I hope you all have a blessed day. I'll catch up with you again tomorrow. See you then.